In 2022, 77% of employees said that they were experiencing burnout in the workplace. And I don't have the statistics for business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, but I can only imagine that the numbers are just as high, if not pretty damn close. Now, when we talk about burnout and what burnout isn't just that feeling of, oh, I'm kind of tired. Oh, I've kind of got this lag as I go throughout my day. Burnout is a lot more severe than that, especially when awareness isn't brought to it, especially when steps aren't taken in order to move yourself into a different situation or create a different structure or move yourself into a different job, business, or career that helps to facilitate a better quality of life for you. Burnout can lead to a lot more severe consequences. And I will tell you today, we're going to be talking with Dr. Z, who is a well-being advocate. She's a medical doctor. She specializes in talking about burnout, how to live a better life, all of these incredible things. And I will say, we will be talking about some of those severities today that burnout can lead to. If you are sensitive or triggered by discussions around the idea of suicide, then this might not be the episode for you, but there will be chapters in the episode so that you can move past that part if you don't want to hear about that part. Although I recommend you stick around because we're going to be talking about how you can find solutions to the burnout that you're experiencing, or if you're a manager or a leader or a business owner, how you can incorporate systems that help your people and your employees experience less burnout with what they do. So without further ado, you know the fee for the broadcast. If you take away anything from this conversation, please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. We just reached a new milestone with the Be Better broadcast. We're over 220 episodes now, going strong, and the show is growing because you are the best part of the Be Better team. Without further ado, let's talk to our guest today. Her name is Dr. Miriam Zylberglait. And for those who don't know her, she is a triple board certified in internal medicine, geriatrics, and obesity medicine with extensive clinical and academic experience. She completed her medical education and geriatric fellowship in Peru and provided patient care for over 10 years at the Naval Geriatric Center. Dr. Z moved to the U.S. in 2011, where she completed her medical training at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. And she's currently in Miami right now as we speak. It's getting hot, she told me, but you can't live in a more beautiful place. It's great to have you, Dr. Z.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we met months ago.
Yes.
And I've gotten to experience the rollout and the launch of your book, which is called The 3G Cycle. You're putting a lot of time into this, a lot of energy. There's one thing I've noticed about you, even though we've never formally met before this conversation, which a few things. Number one, your authenticity. Number two, your desire to help other people. And number three, the way that you put other people above yourself in terms of shouting out other people, featuring other people. Like I went on your website earlier and like there's a little bit about you, but a whole lot about other people. Right. And I was like, she definitely wants to make a difference. So guys, Dr. Z isn't just someone who is just, sharing these things herself. Like she truly wants to make a difference in the world by featuring and spotlighting other experts in this field. Today, we're specifically talking about burnout. So let's talk about that, Dr. Z. How did you even moving from what you've done when it comes to geriatric and the Naval Academy, like how did you start talking about and studying burnout and the effects of burnout?
Thank you first for the kind things that you said about me. I hope all is real and I am really helping people because really this is something that I have in my heart since I was a girl. So I hope that is happening. Truly, I entered in the well-being world by mistake, randomly, not planning it. Like many things happen in life like that. During COVID, I noticed a lot of suffering around me. Not necessarily because of COVID, but also because of the lack of support, of the toxic environments that some people in medicine have to confront every day. And initially I thought that this was only medicine, and I was totally wrong. I discovered with time and with some, education that this was happening around, and that you will see burnout in the medical field for sure, but you will see it also with entrepreneurs, and you will see it with lawyers, and you will see it also even with parents, right? And now we have different names for the types of burnout that you can suffer. Even initially was only for related work situations. And I found myself very naked in some way. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I am completely ignorant. I have been a physician for 20 years and I have no clue. How do you manage this? How you help your people? At that point, I didn't know that I was burned out, by the way. So I joined a training to be a wellness advocate for physician. And part of the training actually involved the fact that I have to go through some coaching. The training was around 6 months, and it took me 4 months to finally say loud, okay, I am burnout too. So I am trying to help others, but I need to start helping myself. And that's exactly how it happened. It was randomly, but I'm I'm happy that now I have the knowledge and I have the grit to use that knowledge to help others and to actually help myself too.
Yes, I think that's, a lot of us find ourselves doing what we're doing. I found just through conversations with others because we have gone through the same things that other people are struggling with. Like I specifically talk about performance and feeling amazing so that you can be in the top 10% of people or even the top 5% of people. And I talk about that because I was in that situation, right? I talk all the time about when I was in my early 20s, I was overweight, I was in debt, I didn't foster my thoughts, I wasn't aware of my thoughts, I didn't work on myself, right? So it doesn't surprise me that you found yourself in this field in a way by accident because you yourself was burnt out, which you discovered through this training program, right? So how did you, when you noticed, wow, like I am actually burnt out with what I'm doing, like what specifically did you see in order for you to be able to say that you yourself were burnt out?
Um, I remember going through and I will not describe specifically the event, but I went through a very impactful event at work. And after that, I was supposed to pick up my kids from school. I have a 6 and an 8-year-old boys, and I was not able to find the school. Which is actually 5 minutes away from my work. So I was driving and not able to get to the place that I was supposed to pick my kid. And I called at that moment, I parked my car and I called my coach, my mentor, and I told him, okay, something is going wrong and I cannot find the school. And he helped me to, relax and calm down. And that was the moment that I was like, oh my goodness, something really is wrong. Like I am suffering and I have this personality, right? Makes you feel and made me feel that I was okay. But many of us in medicine, and I believe in many other careers, we develop this kind of superhero presentation, right? We appear like we can control everything, that we are happy, we are strong, we don't need help. But it's just a mask, and inside of us, we are suffering till something happened and you notice. And for me, it was very minor, right? It was, I cannot find the school. But for some others, really, we can see bad things happening, and at that point, maybe too late. And I believe that what I want to share with my message, right, and with all the work that I am doing right now, is that it's okay to not be okay. It's great to recognize it, and it's even better to ask for help before it's so obvious and it's so bad that you cannot go back on time. We don't want people to be in that situation.
Yes. And what you mentioned about us performing in a way in our daily lives and being that superhero figure, especially if you're watching and listening to this, guys, then you are certainly one of those people who wears that everyday mask. And by the way, that's not a bad thing to put on a mask. You don't want to show up all the time as like you wouldn't show up at work the same way that you would show up when it's just you and your spouse watching Netflix or doing what you're doing, right? You show up in a way that's conducive to the environment that you're in. And sometimes, especially if you're a leader listening, you've got people on your team, people you work with every single day who might be an all-star. They might have the smile. They might be bubbly. They might be outgoing. Like, look at Robin Williams as an example. This man had everything in his life, all the accolades, all the achievements, all the awards, everything that he ever wanted, he got. For those people who were around him, even those closest to him, you never would have known that he was struggling so much internally. And now we don't have Robin Williams, right? So we know people every day, including ourselves, who wear that mask. And like what you said, it's about becoming aware of, okay, this is something that I'm struggling with. But again, you don't know what you don't know. And we're not, I've never heard, by the way, in elementary, middle school, or high school, and even the parts of college that I went to, not once was burnout mentioned. That word wasn't mentioned.
I learned that truly, probably 3, 4 years ago. And again, I am a physician. I mean, I'm supposed to know about these things. I didn't. And let's clarify that burnout has existed since the 1970s. That was around that time that the word was selected to describe certain changes in behavior and in how you feel regarding your work, right? Lately was kind of part of studies, research, and we have inventories and etc. But just a couple of years ago has been added as a clinical diagnosis. So it has been there forever. We didn't pay attention to it because in some way we were labeling people like, lazy, who knows, weak. And burnout is not a demonstration of being lazy or being weak or not being smart enough or etc. It's just to get to a point where there is a big gap between who you are, where are your values, where are your priorities, what do you really want in your life, where your dreams, right? And what you are doing in your life. Because we plan, right? And we have these ideas and all of us, we have these dreams, but suddenly you are in a position where none of that is happening. When sometimes you are forced to even act against yourself, against your principles, against your dreams. And this big space between who you are and what you are doing is so painful. Sometimes it's even called moral injury, right? Where you are forced to really go against who you are. And this is so painful that I call it trauma, and you will not see necessarily in many articles the connection between burnout and trauma, but in some way that's exactly what we are living, right? When you are going through burnout with this severe chronic stress, right, related to a specific, in this case, career, your job, etc., right? Day by day, you are suffering. What happens is that you are developing in some way PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress. And the good thing about that is that if you think about positive psychology and you bring the ideas of positive psychology, you can go out of this PTSD and you can go out, therefore, out of burnout, and you can recover your life and recover the power, of who you are, which I believe is what we need to transmit to others. Is that you are not now a victim. You can decide to stop being a victim, and you can decide to, to be empowered and to go after, the direction of your life and what you want to do with it.
I love your energy, by the way.
Thank you.
Again, the authenticity part of what I talked about, you can't fake that. Like, it just shines through in the way that you talk and the way that you move, because again, you've gone through this yourself. And I think it's impossible to talk about these things if you haven't gone through them yourself, right? But what you said there is very important. About, you essentially gave us the definition for what burnout is, and I've never heard it described in that way. And I just want to read back the way that I heard it. And again, correct me if there's anything you would add or change. But burnout can be seen and felt as the gap between where you are now and what you're doing now compared to who you really are, your values, and the priorities that you have for yourself in your life. Would you say that that's a pretty accurate description?
Yes, I believe that yes. And an example, for example, um, I will use medicine, right? Because that's what I know best. You have a physician that decided to go to medical school because he wanted to save lives. And he didn't care too much about billing and, and budgets and etc. He wanted to be kind and helpful with others. And suddenly he discovers that now he has to see patients 15 minutes only, because that means that he will be able to bill for more patients. And these things cannot be done because the insurance prohibits you to do it, and that bill is not available for the patient because, again, the insurance, and patients need to wait for you like 3 months to see you, and therefore you cannot help, and you don't create relationship with patients because in 15 minutes you cannot do so. So are you really the person that you wanted to be? Are you practicing the career and the medicine that you wanted to? Are you connected with your core values?
No.
I believe no. And that is really painful. And I am sure that this happens in any other area, right? And sometimes if you add to that disconnection, you add abuse, harassment, retaliation, inappropriate payment, inappropriate opportunities, discrimination, just it's adding and adding and adding. It's like, when do you explode? It's not if you, it's when it will happen. And if we don't have the skills, and sadly, and you mentioned you didn't know about burnout, I didn't know about that either, but I didn't know about emotional intelligence either. And I didn't know about post-traumatic growth either, right? So if we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the power. And we need to start sharing this knowledge, and we need to start sharing these different techniques. And I do this in plural because I don't think that everything will be a good fit for everybody. If you send me to the gym, and I am embarrassed to say that, but it's true. If you send me to the gym every day because that will be healthy for me and my mood and etc., probably I will fail on that one. I am not a gym person. You ask me to do meditation, I will do meditation, right? So with some difficulty, but I will do. So we need to find different strategies for people for them to adapt them into their life, in their real life, and that are sustainable, that are feasible, that are not necessarily a damage for their economy, right? And that will allow them to find a way to protect themselves from burnout and from any other type of situation that may hurt them. I want to clarify something, and I believe this is very important. I am not a naive person thinking that everything will be fixed with yoga, meditation, exercise, a good diet, and love and peace, right? I know that's not the solution for burnout. That is kind of a partial band-aid that we need to use while we are able to fix the real problem. And the real problem is that we have a sick society. We have a toxic culture, especially at work, right? And that the systems, before I will say the system, talking about the medical system, now I will talk in plural again. The systems are broken, right? Leaders are no more than bosses, sadly, right? And if we don't fix that, the cultural aspect, and the systemic toxicity that we find, we will not be able to fix burnout.
Yeah.
All these individual approaches that I suggest others to do and that I try to follow myself are just ways to maintain ourselves alive and as healthy as possible till other things happen. Because truly, the system is too sick for yoga to do the magic by itself.
Yes. And it can certainly help, but like you said, it's not everything. And I want to talk about specifically a few things. I want to ask you specifically how we can bring awareness to burnout. I want to ask you, where can it lead if we don't help the people we care about and love and the people on our team? If we can't help them to bring awareness to this, where can it lead? Because no one's immune to this. I mean, the doctor wearing the doctor attire is just as prone to burnout, if not experiencing even more because of the responsibility that they have on their plate. Like you said, they're given 15 minutes to talk to a patient sometimes about an important subject. And then they're told, okay, well, that you're out of time now, prescribe something. And then they're prescribing you with a limited menu of things that they even have the ability to prescribe. So again, it's not that they're bad people. It's that they're in a vehicle that might not be the best vehicle for them. So I want to talk about specifically the first thing is, for those listening, the first step is to help yourself. Right. So if you're experiencing these feelings yourself, if you're listening and you're saying to yourself, wow, this is me, I'm experiencing this daily stress, I'm experiencing this resistance with what I'm doing. Great. You've done the first step, which is bring awareness to this, right? If you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the power. So when you noticed yourself after you got off the phone with your mentor, your coach, and you realized, wow, I'm experiencing burnout in my life, what did you do from that point that was effective in helping you to reduce or eliminate that burnout?
Oh, what I did, I don't recommend it, okay? Just to clarify, don't go and do exactly what I did. In my case, I quit my job.
Okay.
And not immediately, but several months later, after trying and trying and trying my best and finding that I was sacrificing, compromising not only my health, my well-being, but also my families, and that I put all my heart on this. I was not able to get what I wanted, and at some point is when you have to think about the word boundaries, right? Where's the limit? And for me, as a type A personality, and a go-getter, saying I will quit was very painful. Because I was leaving people that I love there, not only my patients, my residents, students, my colleagues, but I was kind of feeling this sensation of failure. Right now, I can tell that idea of failing was just an idea, and that changing your goals or taking a different direction to achieve probably the same things is not wrong. It's not to fail. It's just to reassess what you have in front of you, and to use different tools to get to the point that you want to go. And I believe that that's the first thing I did. I learned that I was not able to help in the way that I wanted, being inside of the system. So I have to go outside of the system. And that's how I ended writing a book, being involved in podcasts, and doing like advocacy. So I am doing exactly the same. I'm just doing it in a different way. And reinventing ourselves is not to fail. And we need to be self-compassionate with us, right? And understand that we are not superheroes. So painful, right? That was probably my first decision.
I want to ask you more on that, because that's very fascinating and very insightful to say, I went outside of the system. So when you say that, essentially right now you're doing the same work. However, you're realistically having even more impact, because now you're outside of that system that bound you and almost forced you to do things a very specific way. But now you've created your own structure through different vehicles and mediums to reach even more people in a way that's more authentic to you. Now, I know some people are listening and they're saying, well, that's easy for you to say. Like, how can I go outside of my own system? Let's say I'm in a job that I'm not feeling fulfilled in. Maybe they're in a similar situation to where you were. How can, I know this is a big question and it's different for everybody, but how would you recommend or advise somebody to go outside of that box or go outside of their own system?
So I thank you for that question, because it's true, right? In my case, I have let's say, the opportunity to do this without harming the stability of my family, and I had the support. This was a family discussion. It's not that I did this crazy, like a crazy, I wake up and I did this. This was, this was something that was thought, and all the process was considered as a family, right? But yes, sometimes you are in a position where you have to pay the bills in your house. You have people that depends on you, and you have to continue in that place or that job. I will say, number one, if the place is too toxic and the environment is too toxic and you don't see how this will change, first of all, is yes, start looking for another place. Don't quit, but start looking for another opportunities. Sometimes other opportunities happen also when you educate yourself and you start going up, right? And in my case, opportunities came also as a result of the things that I was building while I was in that place, right? For example, I was maybe very frustrated about things that were happening, but I had an alternative life that was at the same time or parallel, right? Where I was very happy and feeling very successful and feeling very excited about. So find something that makes you proud, that compensates for that frustration. Understand that work or whatever is causing your stress is not the 100% of your life. It's just part of your life. If you think life and you see it like a cake, right? How many slides of that cake belong to that area that is causing so much stress to you, and how many other slides are there that are yummy, delicious, and full of calories, right? And sometimes dividing our life in this type of cake as slices of the cake will make you understand that, okay, that job or that situation is only 10% of my day. It's only 10% of my life. Is it worth it to ruin everything else in my life because of this 10%? Or should I invest my energy and my, I don't know, put my love and my dreams in this 90 extra percent that is there, right? My family, my friends, exercising, painting, studying something, traveling, helping others, which I believe is the best thing ever, because you are helping and you're helping yourself too, right? So we need to be less, I don't know, we should, boundaries are great and we have to have boundaries to protect ourselves, but we have to remove the boundaries when we want to find other options and other things in our life. Yes. So we need to find out how to play with boundaries and use them in our favor. When do we need them, and when we need to open the door and see what else is outside waiting for me. Yes. And this excitement and this sensation that you are creating something new, that you are helping others, right? That you are developing a new skill. I will not say that will erase this 10% or 30% of your life, but at least will compensate. You will find something that makes you happy. And that's where you have to put all your energy. Because job is job. I mean, and I learned that with a patient, a couple of patients. They were a couple really together for 60 years. I was in Peru, almost ready to come here. And they told me, this white coat is your clothes, right? It's something that you use. It's not your skin. You are more than a doctor.
That's powerful. I think that last 3 to 4 minutes right there, guys, if you just replayed that and listened to that and implemented on those few things, boundaries, understanding that you are not the coat that you wear, you are not the mask that you're wearing temporarily. It's a part of what you do. It's a piece of a role that you play, but it is not you. And it's very interesting because I talk about very similar things with my peak performance system. The third P of the 5 Ps is purpose, right? Finding a greater purpose in what it is you do. Because specifically, if we're talking about sales, which is mostly I work with sales teams, it's difficult to just naturally find a purpose if you're selling something. Like if you're selling an insurance policy, it can be difficult to find purpose in that. But what if you thought about what you're doing instead as serving a greater good? What if you thought about instead, yes, you're selling insurance to somebody, but then they're going to use that insurance 10 years from now, and it's going to save themselves and their families financially from an illness that was set to happen, whether they bought that insurance policy or not. Finding greater purpose in the work you're doing. But I love how you said too, if you're in a toxic environment right now, then don't just try to find purpose and stay inside that toxic environment. Instead, find somewhere else for the meantime and begin building yourself that new box, right? Or maybe not call it a box, maybe not be the best metaphor, but build yourself a new reality over here on the side. Maybe it's a side business, maybe it's a passion project, community work that you're doing while you're still supporting your family and creating this financial vehicle for yourself. Like, again, you were in a unique situation where you're able to do this for yourself. But even if you're not, guys, don't, you can't just say, well, that's a different situation for me, I can't do that. Find a way, ask yourself different questions, right? So when you say find a way to get outside of the box, I think ask yourself different questions. Well, if I had to do this, how would I do it? What are some ways that I could put this plan together? Create a goal, right? Earl Nightingale says that success happens. You are successful once you create a worthy goal and begin working towards it, not after the new vehicle is created, not after you create this new box. So find a place where you can attach your purpose and then create that vehicle where you can share your skills and help people in a big way, to the point where maybe that new vehicle you're creating can eventually become your only vehicle.
And I will add something that many of us, especially again in medicine and leadership positions, right, we forget, and is ask for help. And ask for help is not a weakness. Ask for help means that you are super strong, because that takes awareness, right? You recognize that you have a gap, a need, etc. Then you recognize that you cannot fix it by yourself. So that's a second level. And then you have the guts to go be vulnerable in front of others, which is painful, right? And that's more, ask for help, even more painful. Yes. But after you practice a little, what will happen is that you will be so happy to do this, because what you will find is not only solutions, but you will find new friends, new allies. And that's exactly what happened with me. It's like I started finding people and I started to ask for help. I decided that I was not able to fix this by myself, that I don't have the skills. I don't have clones either. How many hours do you have in a day? And I started really contacting people around the world. Really, I use LinkedIn for that in this case, and I made so many good friends. And you were asking how did I go out of this hole where I was? I asked for help. I contacted people. They mentor me, they help me, they guide me, they are still in touch with me. Don't do these fast connections, very normal in business. Really create empathetic and close relationships with people, and be available to them. Because you never know. You contact someone or you say hello to someone in the elevator and you don't know what type of moment they are going through. So you can be very helpful for others. So find out a way to be proud of yourself and be happy with yourself when you are also helping others. And I feel like if we will be doing this as a practice, right? If we will be practicing everyday kindness, something that is not only cheap, is free, absolutely free. We will be creating a better environment in general. We are all suffering. This is not you or me, or it's as a society, we are burnout. As a society, we are sick. The numbers that we see on depression, on suicide that you were mentioning at the beginning, are a very good way to show how sick we are. And just to give some ideas, for example, 2020, we had in the US more than 46,000 of people dying by suicide. That means that around 132 individuals from different ages, genders, religious, cultures were dying by suicide per day. if you think about physicians, we believe that physicians are strong and they can do everything. They don't have pain, they don't suffer, they are never tired. We have 300 to 400 of physicians dying by suicide every year in the US, meaning that one or two physicians are taking their life daily. And you can go around and see different types of careers. And it's sad to think because there is a mathematical, and I'm not sure how they did it, but apparently for each person that died by suicide, you have more than 100 individuals affected by that. So this has a ripple effect that is a very negative ripple effect, right? And we are not talking about, and I want to clarify this, we are not talking about individuals that are highly sick or that have necessarily a mental illness as a background. We are talking about individuals that were functioning perfectly fine the day before. That didn't show any red flag, that were not necessarily involved in drugs or in any negative activity. We are talking about the neighbor. We are talking about our friends, our spouse. We are talking about any of us. So this may happen to any of us. And I believe that those numbers are scary. And I want to clarify, those numbers are not higher because of COVID. Even this happened around the 2020s, right? These were as high before too. So again, I go back to the society is sick, and it's time for all of us to do something about it, because being bystanders is not helping. And the fact that I don't want to get involved, you already took a decision. So not getting involved is the decision of not helping. That's it. And what do we expect to happen? Who will help us? Who will do it? If we don't do it in our own houses, right, with our own family members, with our friends, in our own jobs, when we take care of our staff or our colleagues, right? If we don't start treating people like human beings, if we don't start being kind with others, if we don't start having, and I practice this vulnerability. I'm sorry, I have a kid here. Do you want to say hello? No, it's okay. I'm glad that I disclosed that before. But if we don't start being vulnerable and showing that to others, we will not go to any good place soon. I want to share a story. I was always this happy, energetic person that's who I am. But of course, I have a heart and I have issues like everybody else, and I go through difficult times and challenges. But I used to try to cover them all the time, especially as an academic physician, and having people, students or residents with me, it was for me not appropriate to show that I am having a difficult day. During COVID, I decided to change absolutely my behavior, and I will go to my work and tell them, oh, today was not a good morning, this happened to me, or I'm not feeling good, or today I feel very sad about this patient, or whatever. And at the beginning, I believe that they thought that I am, acting weird. Days later or weeks later, I started to have, at the beginning, a few and then more of these residents or members of my staff or students coming to my office and telling me I am having a bad day. And some of them even crying or sharing very personal situations. And I kind of, at that moment, I realized that my behavior as a leader, showing that I am a human being and that I have a heart and I can suffer, and even then I can act as a good physician and I can act as a good leader, right? Because one thing is not against the other. You can be a great leader, you can be a great professional, doesn't mean that you are not suffering and that you don't have feelings. And suddenly my relationship with them and my ability to help them was much bigger, because they were trusting me and they knew that they can be sad or happy or afraid and share that with me, and that I will not judge them. I will be there for them.
Yeah.
And we can practice that every day with anybody that we have around us. And, you know,
Yes,
it's
that
very
okay.
non-expensive.
Exactly. It's not expensive to be kind and to be a human, right? And we tend to forget because we're going through our own lives with our own view of things. The people that we're talking to, again, we don't always know. We generally hardly ever know what someone's going through, especially if it's a stranger. But for the people that we're working with on a daily basis, especially as their leader, what you said is so important. Number one, work on you, right? Once you started working on yourself and bringing that to awareness for yourself, it almost in a way created an open door policy for the other people on your team to come in and, like you said, even cry at times to talk about what they're going through. But also as a leader, not just saying, hey, how are you? But actually saying to somebody, hey, maybe yes, ask that. How are you doing today? And then if they say, oh, I'm good, say, okay, well, how are you really doing? Right. Especially if you notice a reason for you to bring that up. If there really is nothing going on, they're going to be like, I'm good. Why do you keep asking me that? Right. But most people have something that they want to talk about, but they don't believe it's a safe place to talk about such a thing. Obviously, there needs to be a layer of trust here. If there isn't that layer of trust, it's going to be difficult. But that trust can be created once they see that you yourself are working on you, number one, and two, that you actually care about them. Once they see that, it's going to create that open door policy that, yes, will help your team perform better, but it might even save a life of somebody on your team.
Absolutely. And I love what you just mentioned, right? Because we use this, how are you doing? While we are going through the through the hallway, right? We don't even check who is around. It's kind of like, a standard. How are you doing? And you don't even hear the answer.
Yeah,
And the answer is okay, of
I'm
course,
good.
because that's again, right? Kind of a reflex answer. So asking the second time and being present, because it's not asking like, hey, how are you doing, and oh, are you sure? No, it's being present during that question, right? Showing that you care. It's not a formality. It's you care. You are asking because you care. And even if at the same time you hear like, no, everything is okay, but you still have that gut feeling that no. So I do this third attempt. It's like, I will be in my office, or you know where to find me. You have my phone. I cannot run away from you. You can call me anytime. I'm available.
Yes.
And you will find that not all of them, but some of them will call you later when they are out of work time, right, or where they feel more safe, or etc. And they will ask for help, or they will share their emotions. And being available is something important, right? And start. And I love what you say. Show that you care. Show that you care. Be present. You may save a life. You truly don't know, but you may save a life.
Yes.
And if it's not that you are preventing a suicide, you are maybe preventing someone to quit a job that they should not quit. Maybe to go home, and instead of screaming the spouse or hurting the kids, for them to go home and that they hug their wife and do homework with the kids. So this has this butterfly effect, right? Kindness
Mm,
has a butterfly effect where you touch the heart of someone and this multiply
wow.
and keeps multiplying, right? And we may not know, and that's the beauty about kindness, right? Because kindness is done without asking for reciprocity. We don't
Mm.
want to then send the bill and get something because we're kind, right? We do it because it's good, feels good.
Hmm.
And it's very healthy also, right? If we go and we think about neurophysiology, and I will not go on details on that for sure, but being kind and makes you feel good because actually creates changes in your brain that is almost like taking an antidepressive medication in some way, right?
Yeah.
Activate some of these substances in your brain that make you feel good, make you feel happy, make you feel calm, and etc. So you are healing yourself, and you are healing all these, big amount of people that follow the butterfly effect, just with a smile and with a nice, kind word, and that's so simple. Again, we are not paying attention to these details, but that's also our fault, right? Because I want to say one thing is you do it for others, but sometimes some people is doing it for you, but you are so busy, right, that you don't pay attention. So pay attention to those things. If someone tells you, oh my gosh, you, I don't know, your hair looks so beautiful, enjoy it. It's not like,
Yes.
oh yes, and you keep going. No, enjoy it, or have a wonderful day, or send my love to your family. Such a nice thing that someone on the elevator or in your work or in the parking lot is blessing you.
Yes.
Take a deep breath at that moment. Enjoy it. Be present. It's wonderful. And
Yes.
it's medicine for your soul.
And if you deny that compliment, you're essentially denying that other person of the kindness that they are giving you, right? Like there's that reflex of, oh, thanks, but it looked better last week, or oh, nice dress. Oh, it's not my favorite dress. I had to throw something on this morning, and then the other person who gave the compliment is like, oh, well, I think it looks good, right? And then it makes them feel strange. So just the power of thank you is magnificent, because now you feel good and the person who gave the compliment feels good. But that idea of kindness changing your brain chemistry, like it's literally changing your own neurochemistry. When you're kind to people, it gives you that shot of dopamine, right? It gives you that oxytocin, that love chemical, right? But then you're attracting more of that to you. You're activating the law of attraction. Now more opportunities and people and things are making their way to you because you're practicing kindness, you're practicing love. Is love and peace the only thing that will solve burnout and the other problems in life? No, but it's one great way to start, especially because it costs nothing to be kind. I witnessed the other day, one of the people I work with actually got a compliment from a client. And it was a very nice compliment. The client said, oh, you look beautiful today, right? And my colleague literally like broke down crying after the client left, and because when was the last time she was complimented like that? It might have been a long time, right? Again, the butterfly effect. She'll go home. Now she's going to act and feel differently, which is going to cause her spouse and her children to act and feel differently. It's a never-ending effect that keeps going and going and going. So Dr. Z, we've covered a lot in this conversation. I want to make sure that we talk about your book that's coming out in January. Everyone, check this out. It's called The 3G Cycle. It's coming out in January. You can pre-order the book now. If you're listening and you're enjoying this, like imagine what you're going to get going into this in-depth guide on well-being and living a better life. But I want to hear from you, Dr. Z. What can you give us an idea or a taste of what we can expect once we dive into the 3G cycle?
So I believe that the first thing I will say is that even, yes, it's my book, I'm writing this book, I am not doing this alone. This started as a lonely journey. I was trying to escape burnout and I was trying to learn a little, and ended being a collective journey. I interviewed more than 32 individuals, all of them from different backgrounds, different countries. I believe I have 4 continents actually as part of the book. And from Wall Street to athletes, professional athletes, Buddhist nun, medical students, psychologists, famous TED talkers. So all of them joined my journey and helped me to create this book. I share their stories, I share my story, and what we do is to kind of give tips about how you can not only prevent burnout or go out of burnout, but actually you can grow during or after adversity, how you can get to be a better you, how you can remove this idea of being a victim and recover control of your life. The reason of the name, the 3G cycle, is like, so if you see that this is moving, I apologize. My kid is creating a earthquake in my house right
He's
now.
helping the scene.
Yes, it's like, yes. So the 3G cycle represents my vision of life. I refuse to see life as a line. because that means that if I fail, I cannot go back and fixing. So I have to go with a very heavy backpack of regrets, which I don't want to. And as a person that is involved in science, I was thinking that everything in life is really cycles, right? We talk about day and night and the seasons, and then pollination, and our cycles on hormones, and even our periods for women, right? And everything happens in a way that is cycles. And all the cycles have normally few things that are, constant. So I selected my 3 constant aspects. And for me, one is goals. And I believe that all of us, we start with goals. What do you want to achieve in life? What are your dreams? Some things are actually forced by culture, right? Or by the society. You need to go to school, you need to get married, you need to, I don't know, have a house. But there are things that are, your dreams. I want to write a book. I want to make the world better. Then you have the second part is grit, which is the energy, the fuel that I will use to move around this cycle, and that will keep me energetic and motivated and everything else. And finally, in theory, we should be closing the cycle with the goal that we achieve. But the truth is that that doesn't happen all the time. Many times we change our goals, or we are not able to achieve them for different reasons. But something that happens all the time is that we will be able to learn something. We will develop a new skill. We will be better than before. Therefore, we are growing. So that's my last G, grow. And this cycle goes again and again in some way like a video game style, right? Where you can go again through the cycle. If you were not able to achieve your goal, you can try again. In the video games, you have extra lives, right?
Yeah.
And you can go to the next level when you close the cycle, or you can decide, okay, that goal doesn't fit my needs anymore, right? I wanted to have a Ferrari when I was 20. I don't care about the Ferrari now. I will stop pursuing that goal. I am okay with my Toyota. I don't know. And I close the cycle, and I go now to something different, my next level. And that's kind of the topic of the book. And what I added are catalysts, because life is not as simple, and we will have positive catalysts that could be having emotional intelligence, coming from maybe a family that has the money and the possibilities to, allow you to go to school and to don't suffer too much. I always joke about saying maybe you are blonde and you have blue eyes, and maybe life is better. Who knows? Kindness, of course, right? Self-compassion and gratitude could be very good positive catalyst. But then you have the negative catalyst, and I do negative very carefully, right? Because yes, they may look negative because they will kind of slow you down or make this more challenging. Like, for example, being a victim of discrimination, having a mental health condition, for example, fear, having traumas, living on with these negative emotions, medical conditions in general. And yes, they will be challenging, but the truth is that when we go through them and we are able to learn how to deal with them, the level of growth that we have after them is amazing.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so careful with the negative. And what we find in positive psychology with post-traumatic growth, which is using adversity on your favor, is that those individuals that go through trauma and that are able not only to bounce back to where they were before, right? Which is called resilience, which everybody talks about resilience like it's the best thing ever. I think that is not the best thing ever. It's like we went through 2 years of COVID and now we are exactly the same than before. I don't think that we learned something, 2 years for nothing. But post-traumatic growth actually takes you higher, which means that you learn through these 2 years of trauma. You are a better version of yourself. And what is very interesting is that those individuals that are able to grow after trauma, they become mentors and they become people that will be role models for others. And those are the ones that will keep trying to change the world for, and make it a better place. So the book talks about the stories of more than 30 amazing individuals that are making the world a better place right now after going through difficult situations. And each of them, they show how they did it in very different ways, from the Buddhist monastery, to, creating organizations to prevent suicide and many other ways to help others.
I'm so excited to read the book. And guys, you can get a sneak peek at the 3G cycle before it's out in January. To do that, go to 3gcycle.live. I'll say it one more time for those listening, 3gcycle.live. And you can join the list. And believe it or not, Dr. Z is sending out little snippets that you can check out before the book launches so that you can get started now and get a sneak peek of what's going on. But I loved this conversation, and so much came out of it that's practical, but also so much awareness has been raised on this idea of burnout and what it can lead to and who's experiencing it. And the answer is a lot more people than you would ever expect. I think that stat of 77% might even be too small. And like you said, it is a form of trauma. And I love the phrase you just mentioned of post-traumatic growth. You hear post-traumatic stress all the time, but post-traumatic growth is something to look forward to as you're going through these current struggles, because as you begin to rise and rise and rise up, you grow, you learn, and then you become a mentor and a source of strength and healing for others, just like you're doing right now, Dr. Z. So
thank you. I hope so. That's the goal. That's absolutely the goal. And that's the reason why I keep going, because I want to help. But even more important, I have 2 boys that I totally love and adore, and I want them to grow up in a world that is kind, where they are appreciated for who they are, where we are able to, to provide everybody with opportunities, no matter how they look, how they act, or how, the things that they believe or not. I feel that burnout will disappear the day that we are respectful and kind with each other, when we practice inclusion and diversity, and especially when we start believing that we deserve better, we start believing that we are not victims, and that we start practicing self-love, self-compassion. And I will use a phrase that my little boy, the one that is moving here the table, told me, and I believe that that's the reason that I am writing this book, and that's my best motivation. Oh, he's giving his version right now.
He's sharing it right now. That's amazing.
Ben, come. What is your phrase?
She came home from work. She was upset, and I asked her, "Are you feeling well?" And she said yes, but she didn't look like she was feeling well. So I asked her, "Do you really feel well?" And still the same thing. And I told her what's wrong.
And what's the phrase that you say every time?
This is your life. This is your choice. This is your journey.
Whoa. Woof. What an amazing way to wrap up everything, because he's literally practicing what you just told us about, like this exact process. What's your name, little guy?
Ellie.
Ellie?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's great to see you today. Thanks for sharing that for everyone listening and watching, because it's so true. Can you say that phrase one more time?
This is your life. This is your choice. This is your journey.
That's incredible. Thank you, Ellie. And thank you, Dr. Z, for joining today, sharing these insights. And I can't wait to have you back on the show once 3G Cycle launches to talk about the 3Gs in more depth.
Be healthy, be happy, do things that make you proud, and remember that we have a new generation waiting for us to make, a better world for them. They deserve it.
Thank you so much. Wow. What an unexpected ending to this conversation. an incredible phrase to live by. Guys, we talked about burnout today, how you can spot it, how you can be aware of it, who's going through it. The reality is so many more people than you can expect, including realistically yourself at certain points. So we talked about the steps to eliminate burnout, how you can get yourself outside of that box that you may be living in, as well as maybe most importantly, how you can help the people around you to live a better life so that we can make the world an even better place to live in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Be sure to go check out the 3G cycle. Get on the pre-order list now so that you can get your copy when it launches in January, but also so that you can get the snippets that you can read a bit early from the 3G cycle. Thank you so much for watching, listening, and sharing this show. And as always, until we talk again next time, continue to be better.